listening to the Charge Life Podcast. I'm Joseph Barletta, and this is where we discuss EVs and all things EV charging. Glad you could pull over and park with us today, so let's get plugged in. Hey, look, today's episode is all about Ford officially launching Tesla Supercharger access. Free adapter, now available order, all of that good stuff. I promise you guys are going to love this with some really good information here. Before we begin, today's episode is brought to you by Smart Charge America. Since 2007, Smart Charge America has installed tens of thousands of EV charging stations nationwide, and they could do the same for you today. Whether in the home, commercial, or service, let their team of expert installation specialists guide you to the best solution for your electric car charging needs. After all, if you can't charge, you can't drive. Visit smartchargeamerica.com today to get started. All right, so I have today's special guest speaker, Mr. James Hike, with us today. We are talking all things Ford as they are officially launching their Tesla Supercharger access. Now, this is a kind of a historical moment because Ford is the first of the big autos, right, that basically has signed up with Tesla wanting to use the NACS. And as a result, we found out last year that they were going to basically be granted this somewhere in February of 2024. Well, guess what? We're in March and February's past us. Now, this announcement came out at the tail end of February. And so some pretty insightful stuff. I got some notes up here on the board that we're just going to kind of comb through. James Hike is joining us today. He's a fellow Tesla driver, but I guess he wasn't as enthused about the news, right? So tell us a little bit about that,
man. Well, I mean, it's nice to be able to pull up to a charger and charge and move on to my next destination. And so my concern is, are the charging stations going to be flooded or, with Fords and other EVs, right? Yeah. So it's, I think there's a lot of luxury in the way charging of my car, that experience is right now. And is that going to stay the same? Is it going to be different?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm a little nervous about it.
Do
tell you the truth.
Do you like get out and talk to people while you're supercharging?
No, I used to.
Right?
I used to. Yeah. Now I'm like, I'm going to charge.
Knock on their window, like, hey,
I'm on the phone. I might even be watching a program. Okay. I'm like, I have
catching up and stuff.
I don't like people as much as I love. No, I'm just kidding. I still love people. But I used to love talking about my car. Right, everybody was like, yeah, but I'm past that. Yeah, gotcha. My third one. So
okay.
I'm good.
So yeah, I mean, one of the things, like, I guess when it comes to parking is the charging port location on across the 27 different legacy OEMs that are joining the NACS network and that are going to be signing up for Tesla Supercharger access. This, of course, Ford's going to be the first one that actually has this access with the advent of an adapter that they're basically giving out for free. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But next year, in January 2025, Ford's going to start to actually, create these vehicles and manufacture these vehicles with the Tesla, connector on the back end of the car. Now, Elon has stressed the importance of like trying to get all of the manufacturers on the same page. Hey, if you're gonna go ahead and absorb the NACS standard for your vehicles, try to position the actual charging port in the driver's rear, somewhere in the driver's rear, so that way the makeup of all of these superchargers that they're putting in stays functional, stays standard, and we can actually do more with less. So with the Ford F-150 Lightning charge ports, actually on the driver's front side, what happens is based on the actual pull-in design of the superchargers, it's taken away 2 spots. So that's the only thing. So it actually affects it if you're rocking and rolling and you have high utilization at that site. That F-150 Lightning is actually going to take up 2 spots. And it's only going to be able to charge at 150 kW, which we'll talk about here, which means that it's actually going to sit there even longer. Right? So these are all things that there are pros and cons. But like we talked about here, you're going to see one of the first things we found out was that it's the adapter that Ford is given to all of their customers. Now, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you have to actually go on Ford's website, sign up for like the Blue Oval Network pass and all of their charging stuff. And then you register your vehicle with that. And then they do the cross check on the back end and then boom, they send you the adapter. So there is a little work that you have to do prior to actually get the adapter, but the adapter's free, right? So we talked about the adapter being free until June 30th, 2024. So what are we in? It's March, April, May, June. So March, April, May, June. You got 4 more months. Like that's a long time to get like the however many 200,000, let's say 400,000, 600,000 Ford customers out there to hurry up and get their adapters, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be a phased approach. We talked about actually February of 2024 being Ford, and then of course this month, March 2024, Rivian's going to be on that board. But we're probably going to see that announcement maybe later on in the month itself. So overall, we know that Tesla is specific with regards to the type of supercharger sites that they are actually opening up for this particular access. Now, the good thing is the Ford customers, they don't actually have to download the Tesla app and do all of that stuff like they would if they were at a destination charge, stuff where it's non-Tesla networked destination charge stuff. They can actually access it through Ford's app. Now, here's the coup de grace. Here's what no one knows. We're going to talk about a lot of the pricing stuff here on the podcast in today's episode, but what we don't know is how much Ford is actually paying Tesla on the back end for that API access. We do not know that. That is not made public. And so, but rest assured that when Tesla starts, their quarterly earnings reports and they start reporting the charging numbers,
it'll come out.
That I don't know if they'll segregate, like, here's all of the revenue we generated from supercharger sessions, and then here's all the revenue we generated from like API and like integrations. Maybe, and I think they should, honestly. It's kind of like
they have to because it's public.
It's kind of like the carbon credits, where they're taking the ZEV credits and stuff, and manufacturers are having to pay them millions of dollars. Like they're just collecting, I think it's billions of dollars actually that they've collected from all these manufacturers that aren't hitting their zero emissions mandates. And so they literally have to pay Tesla because they're not making EVs. It's amazing when you see. But a lot of the investors on Wall Street, they don't like that. They don't like to see, you guys are counting that income, but that income's not, it's not, trajectory. It's not long term. It's just short term, stuff. So anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But we know that they're only allowing V3 sites for these superchargers via the access for the Ford network. Okay, so that's what we know now, and maybe as they go further and further into the OEMs, maybe they start to do more unloading on the V2s or maybe some of the urban chargers. But for now, it's just V3 supercharger sites, which are 250 kW. Okay, I think there's a lot of power electronics involved in that with regards to like the adapter and with some of the hardware limitations that the vehicles can do. So I think Tesla is just trying to work out their telematics and their power electronics to be able to cater to that. So only V3 supercharger sites. And Tesla, believe it or not, is actually like, they're not opening up all V3 supercharger sites. It's only a select few V3 supercharger sites. So if you're traveling and like somewhere out of maybe Denver or Colorado that, like this station site is just constantly congestion. It's just constantly like filled.
Yeah.
They're most likely not going to open that one up.
Right.
Because it already has a high utilization.
Makes sense.
So and what we're seeing is that it's
smart on their part. Actually.
Yeah, it's a utilization play. Like, dude, if I'm going to put in 12 or 20 superchargers there and they're not getting used in their version 3, let's open those up for the other OEMs. Let's increase that utilization while we already have it there. And try to make our money back on our investment a little bit faster. So
yeah.
But just like
that would be a good approach, I think, just for consumers of Tesla or consumers of Ford.
Yes.
I mean,
now I think
there's a lot of possibilities.
We're gonna work out all of this stuff, and in the next like 7 years, you're gonna see every car is gonna have the tail light, charger on there. We're gonna be pulling up. It's gonna be phenomenal. Everything's gonna be homogeneous. It's gonna be a much better experience, and that's what it's gonna take for us to get to that kind of wider use adoption rate of EVs. So super stoked on that. But I think a part of the agreement, and I'm hoping that a part of the agreement Tesla has with these OEMs, these legacy OEMs, is like, hey, look, if you're gonna take on our charging standard, we're going to show you, we're going to give you access to the supercharger network, but we're also going to recommend and try to persuade you, almost require you to start manufacturing your charging port in the driver's rear. That's like the only thing that's going to really, in my opinion, set the tone. But V3 superchargers, so you cannot use it at V2, urban chargers, or destination chargers. And it's because the only way that the access is there is through an adapter. And so we know that the adapter is it's free, right? So you go online. We talked about it earlier. You go online. You got to do the sign up for all the Ford stuff, and then register your stuff. Boom, they send you an adapter in the mail. You have to do it by June 30th, 2024, or you have to pay $230 after that fact. So Ford's, kind of, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing to get the word out to all their customers, but hopefully they're like fanning this thing.
I know I haven't seen a whole lot on it actually. Now you say it.
Yeah, but maybe if if any of our customers, if any of our customers own Fords, love to put some comments in the notes and let us know if you actually receive notification or something like that, and maybe even kind of detail the process that you had to go through a little bit more. But from what we know, that's what it is. Now, the adapter is limited to the point where it's only able to distribute 150 kW to the car. So, but most of these, Fords and GMs and like some of them have limitations to the amount of DC power that they can actually accept. So, like Tesla can accept 250 kW, but maybe the F-150 can only accept 150. And I'm not too sure. I can't think of what I believe they probably can go, but maybe it's limited at 150. But they're limiting all the adapters
probably
output.
Flip a software switch and have a larger allowance. Or is there some hardware that they?
I think it's limitation factors between the adapter, and then limitation factors between the actual NAC standard. Because remember, you have the Tesla standard, and then you have the NAC standard, and it's the same connector type, but there are differences with regards to the communication protocol that each one of those do. So same plug, but it's just different communication stuff. Gotcha. So Tesla's still working on like the, having to have two different communication, types stuff like that for their superchargers. So I think they built that stuff in, and they already threw the software updates on all the V2 sites, and so because of that, I think that they're just sticking with the V3s now. We know the adapter's free, and it is subject to site selection, so we don't anticipate it being all of the V3 supercharger sites. But the good thing is, it's like we talked about, it's a utilization play. They're going to open up the sites that are just less frequented by Tesla owners, right? So
it's good news.
Yeah, so don't worry about like being like, filled up and stuff like that. I noticed one of the superchargers here in town, there was one section over here, superchargers, and then I go over there, visit and charge up, and there's like another one. So Tesla actually added another like 12 or 16 stalls to that site. So
but that site was overutilized.
And I think when you see stuff like that, just know that you're probably not going to see any Fords there anytime soon, or any other manufacturer, because
they'll have to add another 20 units over there. Man. Right, that site, I know exactly what site you're referring to. Yeah, it's a heavy utilized site. So. We do know that, in my opinion, what we're seeing, this is really good news for the EV industry overall when it comes to EV adoption and, kind of the accelerating the advent of sustainable transportation. I'm thinking, this is just an estimate, not a professional. I don't know. I was going to say 10%, but I think really, if you have a Ford F-150 Lightning or a Mach-E Mustang, all electric car, and this thing just happened, and you get your adapter and you're charging on the supercharger network, I'm thinking that your value on your car just went up by 20%. That's just my opinion. I think that's a professional opinion.
But by 20%. And I think 10% is selling it short. I think 30% is, dude, you're off your rocker. But I mean, that 20%, kind of maybe 90% standard deviation around there, like, I think that's a pretty good act.
From a consumer perspective, I would say, 100%.
Because here's how I know. When it came to like pickup trucks, I was a big fan of Rivian. You talked about Rivian. You liked Rivian. I love the Rivian's look, the form factor, but I love the space and the actual utility behind the F-150 Lightning. You mentioned earlier that you enjoy the Rivian, right? And I said that, I enjoy the F-150 Lightning. Now I know the reason why we're talking about this 20% is because I was super ecstatic to hear this, because now I'm thinking, shit, excuse my language, but like I'll actually go and lease an F-150 Lightning and not have any problems, not have any qualms, because I know that wherever I go, I know where I'll see her.
Well, that's true. Yeah, but only the range on them I hear is kind of weak.
Yeah, the powertrain and power electronics and stuff like that, they're definitely inferior to Tesla. But I would always like kind of curb your, like, if Tesla's advertising at 300 and they're only getting 280, if Ford's advertising at 300, you're probably only getting like 240. Okay, so a little bit off of there, but anyway, I was really excited to hear this because I was like, maybe I'll go lease a F-150 Lightning. I mean, now maybe you can go lease a Rivian when they release it.
I'll wait for a Cybertruck. So I'm good.
Yeah. Who knows? But overall, it is definitely increasing the value from what I see on these these OEMs that as they step into that play and as they get on board with the supercharger and access, it will increase because everyone you talk to, F-150, Rivian, any non-Tesla owner, charging is abysmal. When it comes to, I mean, if you look at the stats in the latest report, I think it was like 67% of chargers on any other network actually work.
I wouldn't even buy another car if it wasn't a Tesla. I mean, just because of the network,
the charging network, right? Yeah, and I think a lot of other people they feel that same way, but they may not have had the same. Maybe they don't agree with the CEO and all that stuff, politics. And so they're like, you know what? Let me go with this. This OEM. This is a safe brand. They've been around. They know they should know what they're doing, right? Right. Yeah. They're not in it like we are. So if they did buy it, then it's a great car. Don't discount the car. It's still a great car. But I think what it just did by having access to that supercharging network, that reliable, that fast charging network, I think you're going to see those residual values. And
eventually, people have to understand it, right? Like, because I think there's a lot of people who really don't understand how the charging networks for Tesla function. Yes. Like, I tell people about driving to Portland, Maine from New Orleans, and they're like, "What?" They freak out. They're like, "Really?"
Yeah.
So most people have no idea that the charging network is that vast.
Tesla. I'm getting that same when I'm having conversations. I'm getting the same.
But when they realize it, that's a total game changer. I mean, for Ford, for anybody else who joins that network, 100%. So the value should definitely increase.
Well, if you look at when it comes to Tesla's value, by doing this, you were speaking earlier about like Tesla's moat, right? You were saying you didn't like the fact that they opened it up to consumers or to other OEMs. Right.
Just only because it's going to be an inconvenience for me, right? It's my selfish ways.
Okay. Not the competitive advantage and kind of that play on.
I'm selfish.
Do you own any Tesla stock? I don't know. Maybe you do or not. So a lot of Tesla investors.
No,
you shouldn't have done that.
I could see a Tesla owner or a stock owner, seeing this as a major advantage, right? Like I totally get it.
Yeah.
As just a car owner, because I don't own stock. Right. Yeah, I'm like, it's gonna be an inconvenience.
And that was a lot of the conversation was like Tesla had this huge moat that leveraged their position as a competitive advantage in the marketplace. That's why they control and they have 60% plus market share. It's like, they just tore down this moat. So what makes them special? What makes them what's the competitive advantage of Tesla? I'm like, dude, you obviously I can't even see it.
You haven't driven a Tesla.
I can't even talk to you on that end, but we're going to save that for another episode. But overall, what we do see is that there's fees that are associated with this, right? And so the drivers that are using the supercharging network, when they do pull up to a supercharging network that is applicable, right? That is, opened up for that, which by the way, there are filters inside the Ford's dashboard and app that allow you to actually see what superchargers are actually available to those cars. So it's not like a mystery. It's actually there, which makes it super convenient for those drivers. But when they do actually pull up, they're actually being charged, believe it or not, 30% more than what Tesla drivers are paying for the rate of that electricity, that charging session.
Well, that's not good news for Ford drivers.
So, I mean, look, average supercharger, I would say is like 31, 34 cents.
Probably still cheaper than gas.
Now, but now you're paying 45 to 50 cents a kilowatt, at a supercharger site to be able to use it. So, unless you pay a membership. And so the membership-wise, membership is an ARR play for Tesla. Huge advantage, right? That was something, it was kind of like a membership play. That was something that they never really had. But now they can actually exercise. And if they can convince other OEM owners to actually, like legacy EV auto owners, to actually pay them $13 a month, think about that.
How was Tesla stock affected on the announcement?
Well, reactors. I mean, this announcement happened like 2 years ago, and so
but now that it's real,
this one it didn't
move. It didn't
really budge much. I mean, there was something that happened with like the Giga Berlin sabotage or something that actually caused the stock to drop a little bit more than the announcement of this. Right? So, because I think that investors see a $13 a month play. Now, the $13 a month, what that does is that just gives the legacy OEM EV owners like the ability to actually charge at the same rate as the Tesla owners.
Got it.
So, but one of the things that we don't know yet is how much is Ford or all of the other legacy OEMs, how much are they paying Tesla for that API access on the back end? That's the one thing we don't know.
Right.
So it'd be really interesting to see that. But we talked about that earlier. But if they can make up some of that difference with that $13 a month on the membership stuff, I don't know what the take rate for this is, but I can tell you that every single person that buys a Tesla, there's a certain amount of earnings out of that purchase price that go towards the supercharger network. It's always been that way, right? Mm-hmm. It's how they're able to cash roll and fund the actual supercharging network. Right. So I can guarantee that like Tesla's like, look, we didn't do this all for nothing. You're gonna have to give us something on the back end. We just don't know what that is, right? Mm-hmm. We haven't seen any type of stuff. But make no mistake, when we do see that information, we'll definitely advise everyone listening. So, but that's good. So I guess one of the things I want to do is I want to get a map of all of the sites that are enabled for these B3 supercharger, like kind of the open rollout, just so that way I can see like how advantageous it really is for.
What if there's one already out? I would think it's probably already out.
There should be. I just haven't been able to do my research on that particular topic. So
let me dive.
I don't know if I have any other audience questions, but do you have anything that you wanted to share on your end on this?
No, I mean, I can just say that I think it's exciting news for the industry as a whole. You know, I mean, for all the manufacturers out there that are tying into this network, I think it's going to be a huge benefit for people who are like on the fence.
Yeah.
You know, am I going EV? Why would I? You know, I'd rather gas because there's gas stations everywhere. Well, you know, it's a game changer, man. It's pretty exciting. So that's all I would say. As a consumer, I would say that.
As a consumer. Now, if you look, a lot of investors, a lot of people, they're like we talked about, they're downing Tesla for opening up this moat. And it's like, guys, you guys have to understand what Tesla's ultimate mission was, right? It was to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Yeah. And this one move right here actually does that. It brings up the value of those cars. Well, it allows them to be able to sell more of their EVs. If it's not Tesla, it's others. But it's enabling that transition faster.
Yeah. I mean, if it weren't for Tesla, we wouldn't be here.
That's right.
I mean,
that's right.
Where would the industry be? So, no, I think it's an important move, and I think it's going to lend charging to everyone, really, and in a way that most people have no idea how vast. Like I said earlier, they have no idea how vast it is.
I think talking about supercharging network,
and exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Like when you could, I love telling the story that I've driven all the way, from New Orleans, all the way to the West Coast, up the West Coast, back over through the mountains, back down to New Orleans. I also drove all the way up to freaking Portland, Maine from New Orleans, all over the country, the East Coast, and back down on the charging network, the Tesla.
And not a single problem.
And never had a problem, not once.
Interesting.
So, when people experience that in a Ford
I think it's a game changer. That's where I said the 20%. Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, I think it's about to blow up.
Now, remember, you got about 27 different legacy auto OEMs that are making EVs. And so they all signed up on the NACS agreement, like at different times with Tesla, to be able to have supercharger access. Mm-hmm. So we're going to start seeing slowly, like we talked about, February was Ford, March is Rivian. Mm-hmm. I'm not too sure who's slated for April or May, but I know GM announced, they were the second ones to announce right after Ford. So I don't know if there was a little hesitation or there's something on the back end where GM wasn't really able to move faster, but Rivian moved a little bit faster. I would expect Rivian, being an all EV manufacturer, to move faster with regards to like some of Tesla's requirements to be able to meet that NACS standard on the hardware.
So these cars will be able to plug into a level 2 charger as well. Or no?
Well, they can have an actual Tesla adapter for that. Like Tesla has their universal wall connector for that. Mm-hmm. So they would be able to use that. Tesla actually
can't use the NACS plug.
Not unless they actually have an adapter, which is like a reverse
different adapter from the V3.
Yes, it is not the supercharger adapter we're talking about. The supercharger adapter for the Fords is a CCS adapter.
Gotcha.
It's a CCS to Tesla NACS adapter. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. So it's the inverse.
Yeah, because I guess all the OEMs have their own level 2 chargers for home charging and things of that nature.
They're using the J1772, right?
Right.
And so the supercharger, I guess the destination charger locations that are open to the public are the ones with the kind of the newer universal, charging, like kind of a little magic dock there that allows them to access it, scan their little thing, boom, they can get a charging session. So not to say that Fords can't charge on the destination charge It's just with that adapter they can't. So
right. So they'd have to buy a different adapter possibly,
or pull up to the destination charge site that is a newer site that was built maybe within the last year that actually has that type of connector on it with the adapter and the magic dock for the universal wall connector.
Gotcha.
So that enables it. And so it's a slow rollout. I think Tesla's really, they're doing what they can to complement some of their destination charge program charging to kind of help offset some of the constraint and congestion to some of these superchargers. But look, at 27 legacy OEMs that all sign up at different times, this stuff is gonna, you're gonna hear one like every other month or so, just another OEM just coming on board, doing it. And Tesla's gonna start testing it, They're basically rolling out their plans from a few weeks ago where it took them, I believe, 10 years to reach 50,000 superchargers. They wanted to do that same amount in the next 2 years.
Right.
2024, 2025.
Yeah, they're projecting, right?
And so they're going to need that help when they have the onslaught of this. And so really cool stuff. Definitely wanted to share a little bit more details along with this deal, especially with yourself, so that way you're a little bit more informed. But I think our audience members are definitely a little bit more informed now. And we basically just kind of trench through the details, and hopefully everyone's a little bit better for it. But yeah, look, I definitely wanted to thank you so much to our listeners and subscribers today. I hope this episode has definitely, brought you guys a little bit more knowledge. I know we're all better for it. I'm better for it. I love you guys. Thank y'all so much. We can't do this without you, so we definitely appreciate it. Go ahead and click the thumbs up icon if you guys can. Share, comment, like, subscribe. I don't know what Google's doing these days, but it's pretty much AI at this point, so I don't know who's controlling us at this point. Maybe we're in a simulation. We don't know. But thanks again for charging up with us today, guys. And remember, you can always find us at smartchargeramerica.com. And remember, if you can't charge, you can't drive. So we'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.